You carry a piece of someone who was never supposed to exist. It is sitting inside your cells right now. Not a memory, not a story passed down. A physical fragment of DNA, copied and recopied for over 50,000 years. Quietly riding along inside your genome. For most of human history, nobody knew it was there. Then in 2010, a single pinky bone changed everything. It was found in Denisova Cave, a limestone cave tucked into the Altai Mountains of Siberia. The bone was small enough to be overlooked. But when geneticist Svante Pääbo and his team sequenced its DNA, they found something that did not match Neanderthals, and did not match modern humans either. It was a new branch of the human family tree. Scientists called them Denisovans, no skull, no skeleton. Just a fingertip and a few teeth. And yet, from that fragment, researchers reconstructed an entire population of ancient humans who lived, hunted, and interbred across Asia for over 200,000 years. Here is the part that should stop you. They did not just exist alongside your ancestors. They mixed with them. Somewhere in the deep past, a Denisovan and a Homo sapiens met. Not once, many times, in many places, over thousands of years. And the children born from those meetings survived. Their descendants kept walking, kept migrating, kept passing that DNA forward, generation after generation, until it reached you. You are not descended from a single lineage of humans who stayed pure and separate. You are a mixture, a patchwork stitched together from at least 3 different kinds of ancient people. So where did all this actually happen? This is where the story gets stranger. The highest concentration of Denisovan DNA on Earth is not found in Siberia, near the cave where the bone was discovered. It is found on the other side of the world, in the islands of the Pacific. In Papua New Guinea, geneticist Mark Stoneking and other researchers found that modern populations carry between 4 and 6% Denisovan DNA. In parts of island Southeast Asia, indigenous Australian communities show similar levels. That is not a trace amount. That is a significant chunk of the genome still active, still doing something inside living bodies today. But it gets more complicated. In 2016, geneticist Murray Cox led a study looking closely at populations across island Southeast Asia, including the Mentawai people of Sumatra and communities on the island of Sumba. What he found did not fit the simple story of one ancient meeting in one place. The genetic signatures suggested multiple separate waves of interbreeding with different Denisovan populations, in different regions at different times. In other words, Denisovans were not one small isolated group hiding in a single Siberian cave. They were spread across an enormous range, from the cold mountains of Central Asia to the tropical islands of the Pacific. And wherever they crossed paths with modern humans, they left something behind. Now picture it. Imagine a small group of Homo sapiens moving along the coastline of ancient Southeast Asia, tens of thousands of years ago. They are following the shore, crossing land bridges that would later disappear underwater. Somewhere ahead of them, another kind of human is already there. Different enough to notice, familiar enough to approach. There is no written record of what happened next. No name for what either group called the other. But their descendants are still alive today, and their bodies carry the answer written into DNA. Here is the twist that most people never expect. This ancient mixing was not a mistake, and it was not a weakness. It may have been one of the smartest survival strategies your ancestors ever stumbled into. When modern humans moved into the high-altitude regions of Tibet, they faced a brutal problem: thin air, low oxygen, a landscape that can slowly suffocate anyone unprepared for it. Yet Tibetan populations today thrive there. Researchers traced part of the answer to a gene called EPAS1, which helps the body regulate oxygen at extreme altitude far more efficiently than in most other human populations. And when scientists looked closely at where that gene variant came from, they found it was inherited from Denisovans. Your ancestors did not just survive by outcompeting other ancient humans. In some cases, They survived by borrowing their genetic solutions. Immune-related genes tell a similar story. Populations in island Southeast Asia and Melanesia carry Denisovan-derived variants linked to immune response, the kind of genetic tools that help a body recognize and fight off local diseases faster. When your ancestors arrived in unfamiliar tropical environments, filled with unfamiliar pathogens, interbreeding with people who had already adapted to that environment for tens of thousands of years was not a liability. It was a shortcut. Extinction did not erase the Denisovans. It absorbed them. Now think about what that actually means for you. If you trace your family back far enough, past your grandparents, past written history, past every name anyone in your family has ever recorded, you eventually reach people who were not fully modern human by today's definition. People whose faces might have looked slightly different. People who are technically a separate branch on the family tree, and you are still carrying pieces of them forward. This is not some rare exception either. Nearly every person alive today carries ancient DNA from an extinct human relative. If your ancestry traces through Europe or Asia, you'd likely carry Neanderthal DNA. If it traces through Papua New Guinea, island Southeast Asia, or Aboriginal Australian lineages, you likely carry Denisovan DNA as well, sometimes both. The modern idea of a single pure human lineage, unchanged and unmixed since the beginning, was never real. It was always a simplification. The truth is messier and far more interesting. You are the product of overlapping populations meeting, mixing, and merging across tens of thousands of years and thousands of miles. Every time you climb stairs and your lungs adjust without you noticing. Every time your immune system fights off something before you even feel sick. There is a small chance you are watching ancient code, borrowed from a species that no longer technically exists, still quietly doing its job. You carry a piece of someone who was never supposed to exist, except they did exist. And in a very real sense, so do they still, inside you.